Please rise and join me in welcoming our honored veterans to John Adams Academy. Thank you so very much. Welcome, veterans. Please remain standing. I was hoping to catch you. Please remain standing in solemn reverence as we post the colors and continue to remain standing, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and National Anthem. Our colors will be posted by our United States Marine Corps.
Carry! Colors! Forward! March! Left, right. Left, right. Left, right, left. Left, right. Left, right. Left, right, left. Left, left. Post colors. Hand salute. Ready? 2. About face. Forward. March. Left, right. Left, right. Left, right, left. 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 Left, right. Left, right. Left, right, left. Detail. Halt. All right, about face.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much. You may be seated.
Three teens were arrested today for defacing the Kensington Park War Memorial overnight. The destruction includes painted messages against the military and the war in the Middle East. The three teens were picked up in the early morning hours after evidence was left at the scene.
Grandpa, something wrong?
Some people sure have short memories, and those who are too young to know need to be taught. Come on, I want to show you guys something.
Sunday
family. I lived in the belly of the beast.
I fixed the hearts of iron monsters. I became a worm in the morning. Forgive me.
Ran for righteousness' sake.
With God and country, I fought for you.
I fought for you. For you. I fought for you. I fought for you. I fought for you. I fought for you. For you. For you. For you. For you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you, and I do it again.
As we take this opportunity to celebrate Veterans Day and honor our veterans, I want to take a brief moment to recognize some special individuals for being with us today. I want to recognize Ms. Christine Rydell from Senator Jim Nielsen's office for being with us, Marie Mitchell from Folsom Lake Symphony, Mr. Lance Izumi and Tim Anaya from the Pacific Research Institute, Larry Brasher, President of the Freedoms Foundation, Pam Frank, board member of the Freedoms Foundation. I want to thank American Legion Post 169 for being here, as well as VW Post 1487. I'd like to pay attention and notice that Joel Scott from McClintock's office, Congressman Tom McClintock's office is here. I didn't see them, but we were expecting someone from Kevin Kiley's office as well, so in case you're here, thank you so much. Placer County Board of Supervisors, as well as Roseville City Council. So please join me in thanking those individuals for being here to help us celebrate today. Today, we gather here to recognize and honor our Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine, and Coast Guard veterans who have sacrificed both in war and in peace to protect the Constitution of the United States of America. Each took an oath not to protect America, but to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. In supporting and defending the Constitution, they protect America and the American way of life, for our founders knew that if we lose the Constitution, we have lost our nation. They did not serve this great nation in the military because they sought honor and glory. So we are here to honor these brave men and women because they are the very individuals of whom glory and honor seek. They did not serve and sacrifice in the military because of the abundance of pay that they would receive. So we pay tribute and respect to these brave men and women for their service, because tribute and respect are a wealth more valuable than gold. They did not risk life and limb or the constant possibility of combat because they sought fame. Yet here we are, starstruck in their presence for the sheer magnitude of their character and willingness to stand in harm's way. They chose God and country over personal comfort and family, so we embrace them now in the warm gratitude of a loving extended family. When we honor our American flag, it is truly they that we honor, for our veterans are the fabric from which our flag has been woven. It is easy to identify our veterans when they are active duty service members visible in their uniform. However, the majority of veterans we honor today no longer actively serve wearing a uniform. Many have gone on to become teachers, police officers, firemen, engineers, authors, doctors, lawyers, and our neighbors. Whether they wear the military uniform today or wore it decades ago, veterans represent an unwavering dedication and exemplify the highest ideals of service to our nation. We are so pleased to have you here with us today so we can express our appreciation and gratitude for all you have done and all you continue to do to secure our freedom. Thank you. Today, we would also like to acknowledge that this is the 100th year anniversary of the Armistice Day of the First World War. In the trenches and barbed wire on foreign soil, our soldiers witnessed the advent of military action which forever altered the shape of modern combat and made World War I unlike any other conflict in human history. On the 100th anniversary of this great and terrible struggle, we reflect on the sacrifice of our nation's servicemen and the war whose enduring legacy shaped the social, military, and political fabric of the 20th century. Please join me in a moment of quiet reflection for all of our veterans, those with us today, and those who have gone before. Thank you very much. We now begin our presentations with a message from our Scholar Council President, Ms. Sharon Phillips. Sharon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Phillips. I'm a senior and the current Scholar Body President here at John Adams Academy. We are so immensely privileged to be joined by our country's veterans today, and I cannot express how much of an honor it is to have the opportunity to speak with you today. Like many of the scholars here at John Adams Academy are able to say, my family has a history serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. My grandfather and his brother served in the Navy during Vietnam. My other grandfather and my great-uncle served in the Army at the same time. My great-great-uncle served in the Air Force as a B-12 bomber pilot, and my great-grandmother was an aircraft mechanic, both during World War II. All of this history has trickled down to myself standing here today. I'm very fortunate to be able to say that all of these serving men and women of my family were able to eventually return to their loving families and live out long and fulfilled lives. My two grandfathers are still alive today. While my family history does contain very rich devotion to serving our country, this doesn't mean that a direct lineage of service is a requirement for appreciating and venerating America's veterans. At John Adams Academy, regardless of familial bonds to veterans, there are many avenues that expose us scholars to the great honor that we give our veterans. One very impactful way that I have personally grown to so greatly appreciate our veterans is through our Advanced Virtus Choir, led by Mr. Blankenbuehler, which performed the national anthem just a minute ago. Now in my third year as a member of this choir, the other members and I have been granted the opportunity to attend countless events centered around the appreciation of our veterans, both standing today as well as those fallen in service. Roughly 4 veteran-focused events per school year we devote our time to outside of the school day. We give mere hours of our time to honor those men and women who pledged their whole lives to our country and our safety. In Virtus, we have learned at least 4 different versions of America the Beautiful, among many more patriotic pieces. And while it's sometimes laughable when we confuse 2 of our patriotic songs and jumble up the lyrics during practice, The fact remains that these pieces, these songs, these avenues of honor and appreciation have become ingrained into our memories and our way of life. When given the opportunity to represent our school as well as our generation and thank our veterans for their devotion and service, we could find no greater privilege. Knowing our young age and knowing that we have hardly seen a fraction of the world compared to our honored guests seated here today, we know there may be no words to describe what you have experienced. The victory found in returning to your bed after a harrowing day of combat. The pleasant camaraderie shared with your fellow soldier. The searing pain of watching that compatriot fall beside you. The ache in your limbs as you try to pull them to safety, however knowing that you may not succeed. These experiences we simply cannot know. However, what we can do is offer you our most profound praise, admiration, and respect. On behalf of John Adams Academy, its scholars, its staff, its visions, and its aspirations, we thank every veteran who has joined us here today and those beyond these walls. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your bravery, your devotion, and we thank you for your legacy that we will carry in our hearts forever. God bless, and thank you very much.
We will now hear from Mrs. Sugar's third grade class as they perform Keep the Home Fires Burning, accompanied by music teacher, Mrs. Shannon Harp. It's now my honor and privilege to introduce our keynote speaker to you. Captain Michael Piggott Jr. was born in San Diego, California, and raised in Oceanside, California. He enlisted in the United States Army in July of 2009 as an officer candidate and commissioned as a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear second lieutenant in January 2010 through officer candidate school at Fort Benning, Georgia. Upon completion of the chemical officer's basic course, Captain Piggott was assigned to the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment at Fort Irwin, California, where he served as the smoke and decontamination platoon leader in the 511th Military Intelligence Company. After PL completion, Captain Piggott was selected to operate as the executive officer for the regimental headquarters and headquarters troop. Captain Piggott assumed command of the 11th ACR Horse Detachment in February 2013 and relinquished command in April 2014. Captain Piggott's award and decorations include the Army Commendation Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, Army Achievement Medal, Overseas Ribbon, National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service, and Army Service Ribbon. Captain Piggott is married to Eva Piggott, and they have 2 sons, Michael and John. We are proud to present this year's keynote speaker, Captain Michael Piggott, United States Army.
Well, good morning. This is a tremendous honor to be here. This school dwarfs that of the public school system in California, and I would know because I went through it myself. For a lot of, obviously for some of the people out there, for the Marines, I was born in Oceanside, San Diego, and you're probably wondering why did he join the Army and not the Marine Corps? Well, I suppose we always join what we don't know. I'd like to thank Ms. Kimberly Martin, Mr. Norman Gonzalez, Mr. Carlos Iguez, and the staff at John Adams Academy for extending an invitation to the United States Army and the Northern California Recruiting Battalion to be with you on this beautiful day of sacrifice, remembrance, and solitude. On behalf of all Marines, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guard, and their families, I am unabashedly humbled and honored to be the keynote speaker and address this remarkable audience on a most defining holiday that commemorates the devotion and calling that fewer than 1% of our country makes to defend the integrity of our Constitution and the American way of life. We celebrate a day in the spring when we remember those who served and did not come home. Today is Veterans Day, where we pause to remember those who served and did come home, and we are honored for those veterans who are with us today. Since the conclusion of the First World War, we've observed the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month as our Mrs. Day, most commonly known today as Veterans Day. I thank all veterans who are here today and all the students, faculty, administrators, news outlets, and local citizens that are gathered this morning for continuing this great tradition. We remember and recognize the valiant warriors who were summoned to European battlefields to defeat the German Empire at the Battle of the Somme, Verdun, and Alsace-Lorraine. They endured harsh conditions and experienced first ever use of chemical warfare, machine gun fire, and projectile employment. More than 120,000 U.S. service members perished during World War I to protect our allies and to end all wars. Our service members were again entrenched in a world war on 2 continents and returned a second time to Europe, with the brave men storming Omaha and Utah beaches during the morning rain of June 6, 1944, in northern France, to eradicate Europe of Nazi tyranny and oppression. It was a good and violently executed plan of Patton's Third Army storming east across the Rhine River, 101st Airborne Division's resilience in the Belgian Ardennes during the Nazi counteroffensive in the Battle of the Bulge, and the tireless pursuit of all servicemen to eradicate Hitler's Eagle's Nest and defeat the Third Reich to end the European theater. Upon conclusion of the European theater, servicemen were then again rushed to the Pacific to support and fight the cruel and relentless Japanese imperial empire that had enslaved an entire region under their reign. The United States, led by the Navy and the Marine Corps, responded after the Pearl Harbor attacks by conducting multiple missions and campaigns to win the war and limit more casualties through island hopping. Years after the war, veterans like my grandfather and yours were reluctant to ever speak about their experiences and atrocities they witnessed. Instead, they kept them entombed within their hearts and minds about the images and experiences of their fallen comrades. We are here today to honor them and the greatest generation ever, and to reiterate our appreciation for their selfless sacrifice. Veterans Day is an important time to remember not just all veterans, but the veterans of the forgotten war on the Korean Peninsula. As time moves forward and Hollywood continues to make films depicting World War II and the Vietnam War, there was a 3-year war between 1950 and 1953 that continues to this day through a ceasefire in the Korean Peninsula, with service members currently deployed on a 2-year rotational basis to maintain peace, readiness, and act as a quick response force to thwart military actions from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. 38,000 servicemen were killed between 1950 and 1953, with thousands more that were maimed and wounded that are still alive today. However, this generation is quickly passing, with less than a few hundred Korean War veterans left. Let's not forget them now, tomorrow, or ever, as we continue to thank them for their sacrifice and service during the coldest winter. I would be remiss if I did not address our veterans from the Vietnam War, a time of political division and discord, where our selfless servicemen were deployed on multiple occasions, from March 8, 1965, at the landing at Da Nang, through their heroism at Ia Drang Valley, Pleiku, and their continued persistence and resilience during the 1968 Tet Offensive. It is no wonder that the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. is among the most recognizable monuments and attractions in the United States and the world. It is an active symbol of sacrifice that our previous generations endured to provide for our freedoms today. Service members today are fighting a constant and ever-changing global threat. The first Gulf War and their terror attacks on 9/11 showed our commitment to a constant preparedness for global terrorism. Our Iraq and Afghan war veterans are the most resilient and hardened warriors on the planet, with multiple deployments, harrowing experiences, and incredible stories about the battle that transcends duty, loyalty, and service. As we sit in this comfortable air-controlled auditorium, service members are deployed around the world to support the global war on terror in Afghanistan, Iraq, and unnamed locations, assigned to peacekeeping operations in the Balkans and Europe, and remain prepared to fight tonight on the Korean Peninsula with our ROK partners. We have awarded medals to many soldiers, added their names to monuments and named buildings for them, freeways and overpasses, to honor them for their bravery. But nothing can ever replace the hole left behind by a fallen service member, and no number of medals and ribbons can comfort the ones left behind. Families are changed forever each time a service member passes. Let us not have our hearts hardened, but lifted as we remember their bravery. Don't let an opportunity go by to think of a veteran, especially those in long since concluded wars. Lastly, thank you for attending and the opportunity to speak with you today. God bless you and your families, God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America. Godspeed.
Captain Pickett, thank you so much for your remarks and for being with us today and for your service. We appreciate you very much. Thank you. We now welcome back our Virtuous Choir, directed by Mr. Blankenbuehler, to perform a tribute to the armed forces. And the choir would like to invite the service members to stand when they sing the tribute to your branch of the military. Every time I hear our choirs sing, I'm blown away. Beautiful voices. Thank you all. Our next speaker is our National Honor Society President, Kylie Nielsen. Ms. Nielsen, if you can join us.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. I'm very grateful and honored to have the opportunity to speak to all of you today. I'd like to begin by telling you a story of a man named William Alfred Pope, Jr. In March of 1944, World War II was well on its way, but far from its end. Bill Pope was only 22 years old at the time. These days, many would say that a 22-year-old boy is still a child. But unlike most 22-year-olds today, Bill wasn't goofing off with friends, dating, or pursuing a higher education. He was a staff sergeant and an engineer for a bomber, a consolidated B-24 Liberator. Bill was deeply religious, and like many who served with him, he relied heavily on his faith during the trying times of the Second World War. One day, he had a thought enter his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that he would need to jump out of his bomber without a parachute on. At first, Bill dismissed this thought as negative thinking. However, on March 5th, 1944, Bill Pope records that he was deeply impressed to make preparations to jump out of his bomber without securing his parachute. He thought a lot about the scenario. Walking through different options in his mind, Bill concluded that if he had to jump out of the plane before putting on his parachute, he could theoretically tuck it under his arm and hold the carrying strap in his hand. He would then be able to slide the parachute onto his back and snap it into place while falling. The day after his impression, Bill saw that he was scheduled to fly. He awoke for the mission at 2 a.m. Bill put on his best uniform under his flight suit. The men were treated with a special breakfast, an omen of the danger they would face that day. Usually there was cheering when the map of the mission was revealed. Instead, on this day, there was absolute silence. The target was a ball-bearing factory in Berlin where defenses were strong. Staring at the map, every person in that room knew that planes would be lost. Everyone knew that men would be lost. While the importance of the bombing was apparent, the sacrifice it required was daunting. Bill boarded the B-24 along with his colleagues, and they made their way for Berlin. As he approached the drop point, his crew was informed of an Allied plane flying out of formation directly beneath them. To avoid dropping the load on an ally, his team was forced to circle back around. The resulting 20-minute delay gave 18 German fighters the opportunity to establish a position above the bombers that circled back. The German fighters climbed into the sun and dove towards the bombers. Bill's B-24 was hit multiple times, instantly killing the co-pilot and other engineer. As their plane was badly damaged and out of formation, the remaining crew began bailing out. However, Bill stayed to help the ball turret gunner out of his turret. The gunner refused, determined to go down with the plane shooting. By this time, both the plane and Bill were engulfed in flames. Having no time to secure his parachute, he jumped from the plane with his parachute under his arm. His earlier inspiration and preparation had become a reality. Just as he had planned, Bill was able to slide the parachute from under his arm onto his back as the fall snuffed out his flaming uniform. Bill later wrote, quote, "I was about 12,000 feet altitude when I jumped, so it took a while to get to the ground. As I was floating down, 2 German fighter planes circled around me. When I landed in a small field, there was a German soldier standing on the edge of the field and had me covered with his rifle," end quote. Bill Pope had serious burns on his face and body. He required medical attention before he was sent to the Moosburg, Germany prisoner camp. He remained a prisoner of war for 14 months until the camp was ultimately freed. Bill's story is one of faith, sacrifice, preparation, and service. His story is particularly meaningful to me because William Alfred Pope Jr. is my great-grandfather. Granddad Pope recently celebrated his 97th birthday. I'm forever grateful that my grandfather's history has been preserved in his autobiography. More so, I'm grateful that his stories contributed to the freedom and liberties that I now enjoy. Veterans Day is an important reminder of the very real price that was paid for our country. However, Veterans Day is not only a time to look back, but also to look forward. Ronald Reagan said, quote, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free," end quote. Those that have served this country did not only bring back tales of heroism. For each victory, there are stories of loss, tragedy, and trauma. Part of us looking forward is finding ways to continually support our veterans. For many, wars are only something we read about, something you can intellectually try to understand. However, others carry memories of those wars, memories which are far less cheery than the stories we choose to tell. We must support our veterans. I'd like to personally thank each and every veteran in this room. Because of your service, we're able to have events such as this. The brave men and women who serve leave families of their own to ensure that others will grow up in a nation with integrity, with liberty, and with freedom. We cannot take for granted the comfort we have in America, because freedom is anything but free. It comes at a price, and for that, we say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nielsen. I've asked her to stay here because she's going to lead us in the next. In addition to her role as National Honor Society President, Ms. Nielsen also currently serves as a youth board member for the Freedoms Foundation. Ms. Nielsen will share with us regarding the vision and mission of the Freedoms Foundation and lead us through the presentation of the service dog from Capital City K9.
Thank you. All right, so just to tell you guys a little bit about Freedoms Foundation, we strive to educate the community about American rights and responsibilities, honor acts of civic virtue, and challenge all to reject apathy and get involved. We are focused on servant leadership and getting out into our individual communities to make a difference. The majority of our involvement as Freedoms Foundation students and members is to volunteer in a community service project or program that will impact the community in a positive direction. Through focusing on such forms of service, learning, and incorporating American values into our lives, we are able to lead by example within our communities and make a true impact on those around us. It is my honor to be a part of this organization, especially today as we have the opportunity to participate and sponsor a local veteran with a much-deserved service dog. It is my pleasure to introduce Ryan Peterson. He is a 20-year-old veteran of the Air Force and is an air traffic controller. Currently, he teaches Air Force Junior ROTC at Hiram W. Johnson High School in Sacramento, California. Additionally, he served as the chairman of the board of directors of Capital City K9, a veteran-based PTSD service dog training company, and still sits on the board. Recently, he accepted an appointment on the board of directors for the Freedoms Foundation Sacramento chapter. I present to you Ryan Peterson.
I wanted to take this opportunity to address what it is for me, what having my service dog Charlie is. I'll walk out so everybody can get a good look at her. What it meant to me to be, I was a recipient of a sponsorship and award of Charlie as a service dog from another local school here. And through that process, I became part of Capital City K9. And I wanted to appreciate both the organization, Capital City K9, and Freedoms Foundation for giving me the opportunity to talk today as a veteran, to address the veterans in the crowd, and to give a little bit of background on what a service dog means to a veteran struggling with PTSD. This picture here is Charlie and I at Arlington Cemetery this past summer. I had been to Washington, D.C. 3 times prior to this, and I had not had the emotional ability to visit the grave of my fallen friend. Because it was guilt, it was sadness, it was the inability to find the strength within myself to acknowledge the passing of my friend. Major Walter David Gray was killed in a suicide attack while serving in Afghanistan by an Afghan officer who he was mentoring. He and I had trained together, fought together, deployed together, and he was the highest ranking tactical air control party officer in the United States Air Force when he was killed. And he was a really dear friend. He left behind a wife and a family and many communities, both air traffic control and the tactical air control party community within the Air Force and in the Army that he touched. And yet I didn't have the ability to go and pay my respects because I didn't have the wherewithal, the emotional fortitude to do it because it was a challenge. This last summer was my first trip to Washington, D.C. with Charlie. And I was able to muster the strength through her support to go and pay my respects to Major Gray. And so what does that mean? It's not the dog that drove me there. It's not the dog that gave me the strength. It was the fact that I knew that when I was there, I wasn't going to be alone. That no matter what, my companion was going to be there with me. She was going to have my six. She was going to cover every angle that I couldn't see. She was going to be there to support me. She was going to be there to know when I was desperately, this is after I got my emotions under control and stopped crying, because I'll be honest, I did. But she knew. She was there. She supported me. Those of you that have seen me around, I've been on John Adams a couple of times. Some of you might have gone on the Freedoms Foundation Spirit of America trip last year where you guys met Charlie. Charlie is she's a pillar at the high school where I teach. People greet her before they greet me. Hi, Charlie. Oh, you're her too, Sergeant. Hi. Right? The dogs are part of us. They become part of us. They understand us better than we understand ourselves. She knows when I'm having a bad day way before anybody else. She knows before I'm having a bad day before I know I'm having a bad day. It's amazing. And people ask, well, how can you train a dog to do that? Really what you do is you train a dog to be obedient to you. You train a dog to be compliant. During the choir performance, the dog that we're about to present was snoring because it's comfortable. It knows it's in a safe place. The dogs know. They know the danger before we know. And they're here to help us. They support us. They know what we need. So I'm going to introduce my dog's trainer, Julian Valdez, and we'll come up and we're going to do the presentation of the dog here in a few minutes. But I wanted to let you guys know that it's a difficult thing to walk around with a dog because it is, to me, admitting that I had a weakness that needed support. For those of you that are in the room that see service dogs, I want to ask you to do one thing. Recognize the role of the service dog. Understand that they are a piece of medical equipment. You wouldn't walk up to somebody and ask, hey, can I borrow your wheelchair? Can I use your crutches? So when you walk up to someone and you ask to pet their service dog or a vet dog in a vest, realize that you're essentially asking them to, hey, can I borrow your wheelchair? Because that dog is there for them. And they are a piece of medical equipment. So be respectful of that. The puppies are cute. And the one we're about to show is adorable. But remember that they're there for the person with a disability. Because it is a disability. And to please respect that disability and respect the dog that it's doing its job. Okay? Julian. This is how it's supposed to flow, right? Somewhat?
Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to introduce to you guys now the story of Maria Dean. She joined the military because since she was 3 years old, she would watch her father and uncles fly away on medevac missions. She grew up at a flight facility listening to the stories of all the lives they saved, missions they went on, and watched the bond the unit members had. She always wanted to serve her country and always dreamed of someday flying helicopters. When Maria graduated high school, she joined the Army where she worked in flight operations, but still wanted so much more. She worked extremely hard and submitted her flight packet application. Her commander approved it, and she was sent to the Warrant Officer Board. She was selected by the board for a flight school in 2003. She got her flight position at Fort Rucker in 2004 with her track in UH-60's Blackhawks. Her unit was the 126th Medical Company and Company 1 168th General Support Aviation Battalion, which just happened to be the same as her father and uncles. What a brave and determined young lady. We admire her desire to follow in her father's footsteps and serve her country with honor. Maria is now married to her high school sweetheart and has 4 children. She served in Army aviation from 1996 to 2009. Her unit served in both state and federal missions. Maria is a hero to us all, and sometimes heroes sacrifice more than we will ever know. Many veterans battle with conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder when they return from military duty. Maria was one of those veterans. They often depend on resources such as canine service dog programs to assist them along the way. Maria reached out early and was able to use a service dog to help her through her PTSD journey. Her first service dog, Sarge, was her rock and enabled her to return to work and accomplish the simple tasks in her day-to-day life. Many times, Maria would request that her husband go out with her in public because she never wanted to be alone. After receiving Sarge, she felt confident again. Sarge would recognize and prevent many PTSD triggers and assist Maria in those difficult situations. Sarge would often wake Maria from her reoccurring nightmares and comfort her. Unfortunately, Sarge passed away in June, and there's been a huge void and heartache since his passing. The service dog program is vital for so many veterans. Capital City Canine currently has just over 200 veterans on the wait list for a service dog. This program is close to our hearts as we can only hope to make a difference one veteran at a time. Joining us are Freedoms Foundation Board President Larry Brazier and Board Member Pam Frank, with Kimberly Martin from John Adams Academy and Julian Valdez of Capital City Canine to present Miss Maria Dean with her new service dog, Striker.
Oh, that's bright. Morning, everyone. My name is Julian Valdez. I am the head trainer at Capital City Canine. My little partner here is, that's Cleo. She is my personal service dog I received back in 2014? Yeah, 2014, which really got me started into working with service dogs and beginning training with everything like that. And so, what we do here is we make sure that we can provide something that medication, therapy, no matter how many, other things other people can't provide. Knowing firsthand what PTSD is like, my dog has given me something that, like I said, medication and going to a counselor can't help you with. It's knowing somebody is always going to be there for you the entire time, making sure that we can, help you, wherever step of the way. And like Ryan said, Charlie, I trained Charlie. Her original name was Angel. He changed it. As you can see over here is Striker. Striker is a just about 5 months old Cane Corso, Italian Mastiff, pretty much. Striker is the son of Sarge, Maria's first service dog that I also trained. So I want to thank you guys for having me out here today, John Adams Academy and the Freedom Foundation for sponsoring this. This is a very big deal for people. It is hard to obtain a service dog nowadays, which is why our program, we provide, I believe, one of the cheapest in the country of how to provide a service dog. There is no 4-year waiting period. There is no, $20,000 or any of that sort of things. And so I would, like to thank, everyone from the Freedoms Foundation as well as John Adams Academy for having us today. Striker is now going to begin his training. I believe our first day we start tomorrow. And so Striker is going to be trained, the same exact way Sarge was. What we're going to do is, making sure that the dog's the battle buddy. You make sure, the dog's your fact checker. If the dog's not concerned about everything, neither do you. We train the dogs to pick up on different triggers, different emotions, and to act accordingly. So thank you very much for having me out here today.
And now we're going to have Larry Brazier speak to us, the president of our Freedoms Foundation chapter in Sacramento.
Thank you, Kylie. I just want to say a few words of appreciation to our veterans, to all that they have done for us and provided for us, and to John Adams Academy for giving us this opportunity to honor one veteran in this way. We are pleased to have a long-standing relationship with John Adams Academy, involving many of your students, many of your scholars, excuse me, and many of your faculty in participating in our programs, and we look forward to continuing that relationship and building on it. And we're grateful for all of those who support us, and particularly for Sergeant Peterson, for Kylie, and for Kimberly Martin, and the wonderful support that we have. And we're pleased to make this small contribution to the welfare of one of our veterans. Thank you.
A lot of emotions. We just have a little bit more left. So hopefully your emotion tank hasn't run out. So I want to thank all those individuals for being here and for making that wonderful presentation. And I'd like to invite up now Ms. Lauren Summers. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Before we do that, we're going to have one more performance from Virtus on Scala Cortorum to perform Land of the Free, directed by Mr. Blankenbuehler. At this time, I would like to invite to the podium 6th grade scholar John Benson. And our United States Marine Corps representatives for the folding of the flag, who will be doing a presentation of the flag to Barbara Densley in memory of veteran Kenneth Densley.
March! Left, right. Left, right. Left, right, left. Left. Left, right. Left, right. Left. Left, right, left. Left, right. Left, right. Detail. Halt. Ready. Face.
The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks who gave a portion of their lives for the defense of our country to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature, for as American citizens trusting in God, it is to Him we turn in times of peace as well as in time of war for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country, for in the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all her enemies, whether they are found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day, and honor Mother, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood, for it has been through their faith, their love, loyalty, and devotion that the character of men and women who have made this country great has been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to the Father, for He, too, has given His sons and daughters for the defense of our country since they were first born. The 11th fold, in the eyes of a Hebrew citizen, represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, and glorifies in their eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold, in the eyes of a Christian citizen, represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies in their eyes God the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. The 13th fold, when the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our nation's motto, "In God we trust." After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat ever reminding us of the soldiers who under General George Washington and the soldiers and Marines serving under Captain John Paul Jones, who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us the rights, privileges, and freedoms we enjoy today. Thank you.
Ready, face. Forward, march, left, right, left, 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 right, left, 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 right, left, right, left, right, left. Detail, halt.
After I've been sitting that long, it's hard to get up. In behalf of Ken, I would like to thank John Adams for this honor. They have always made it easy for him to be involved in the activities here at the school, and this has been a joy to him. As a patriot and an educator, his dream was always that all schools could be just like John Adams Academy. He has spent his life helping people reach their goals. And this has been a joy to him, to know that through helping someone else, it brings joy to him. When Miss Groth took her senior class to the Ronald Reagan Library, they insisted, because they knew how much Ken liked to put puzzles together, that she should buy a puzzle of the American flag. So she did and brought it home, and he put it together, and it hung in our home for several years. And we discussed this, and Ken said he would very much like John Adams to have the flag puzzle so that they could put it up where their scholars could see it and be reminded of what that flag means to them in their life, and that they will set goals and accomplish those goals. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Lauren Summers, the great-granddaughter of Kenneth and Barbara Densley, who just received the flag, to come up and say a few words about her grandfather.
Good morning. I'm going to start off by speaking about Medal of Honor recipient Gary B. Kirk. He said, "You'll never truly lead until you learn to serve. You'll never truly learn to serve until you realize there's something more important than yourself." My great-grandpa, Kenneth Gordon Densley, knew how to serve, and he was a leader. He loved his country and came to all of the John Adams Academy Veterans Day assemblies. Last year, he said, "They just keep getting better. This is the best one yet." He liked to meet the other veterans and hear their stories, and he would love this assembly in our new Jefferson building if he were here. He and my great-grandma were born the year the Great Depression hit. He wrote, 8 years into the Depression found me working on my uncle's hay baler during the summer months. Year-round, I also fed and milked the cow and fed the rabbits and pigs. When he was 16, he asked his dad why his 8-year-old brother didn't have to bale the hay like he did. His dad said, "Oh, he's too young." That was the same for all his siblings, but he wrote in his journal, "I thank my father for the many experiences I've had because of this responsibility so early in my life." My great-grandpa wrote, "At the beginning of World War II, my woodworking class in high school was asked to make 8-inch wood models of Allied and enemy aircraft. The instructor made a 24-inch P-40 Flying Tiger and told the class that he would give it to the student who made the best models. I won the plane. This project instilled a desire in me to learn more about flying and also one of patriotism. As a high school student, I was asked to play taps for the military services of the servicemen killed during the war. I played taps, then I muted the instrument so it sounded like an echo from across the cemetery. Many people told me it was a beautiful presentation." He continued by saying, "When I got to college, I joined the ROTC and was selected to be part of a synchronized drill team, the National Society of Pershing Rifles, and earned the rank of colonel as the commander of the 6th Regimental Headquarters Company covering the western United States. My attendance was required at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base during summer break for training. While I was there, I got to see Chuck Yeager fly his plane 760 miles per hour, which created loud booms. He had broken the sound barrier. I got to see the plane, but didn't meet Chuck Yeager." End quote. Chuck Yeager is famous for saying, "I didn't look at the sound barrier as a barrier. I looked at it as a mission." My great-grandpa had the same attitude and took on challenges with zeal. He loved learning and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Arts and Biology. 7 days later, he reported for duty as a second lieutenant at Hill Air Force Base. Taking advantage of all the opportunities available, he applied for flight school and was accepted and reported to Spence Field. He wrote, "I was the first one out of 129 officers in my group to solo, and the ritual was to be thrown into a swimming pool in flight gear. I love flying." He earned the rank of first lieutenant, but did not ever serve overseas during the Korean War. My great-grandma says he always went out of his way to help others using his many and varied talents. For example, he bought a trailer so his commanding officer could take his belongings home after he retired. His desire was to serve and teach others. After he was honorably discharged from the Air Force, he taught both sciences and arts. He continued his education and earned a PhD and taught all ages, including college. Another example of his servant leadership was as a scoutmaster. His goal was to give every young man the opportunity to complete the entire scouting program well, and he accomplished that with 23 of his scouts earning the rank of Eagle. He remained active in scouting. The Golden Empire Council honored him with the Silver Bear Award in 1992 and the Silver Beaver Award in 1993. He continued to help his grandsons and great-grandsons earn the Eagle rank and was awarded the Mentor Pin 3 times. He and my great-grandma also served 6 missions to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This journal entry is from a mission in Papua New Guinea. It was study time. The wind was blowing a little more than usual, and so we looked out the window to check things out. What we saw was unusual. The grass was blowing in the wind, and we both started to sing, "Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesty across the fruited plain. America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea." Emotions took over for a moment, as it reminded us of a vacation we took in the Midwest and wheat fields blowing in the wind. After shedding a few tears and being a little homesick, we went back to work. My great-grandpa felt that as Americans, with so many rights and privileges, we also have the responsibility to serve others. He felt that it is a duty to honor and defend these rights, to preserve them for future generations. He will always encourage people to vote. If they told him their vote didn't count, he would always say, maybe your vote was the deciding one. Kenneth Gordon Densley was a servant leader who was driven by an inner compass of virtues and desired to serve and teach others. He had vision and led by example. His service in the Air Force was an important part of his life, and as he neared death, he requested that he be buried in the Veterans Cemetery because he wanted someone to play taps for him. He passed away on September 7th at 3:29 p.m., surrounded by many loved ones, then interned at the National Sacramento Valley Cemetery in Dixon, California. There will always be a part of him in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Summers. So a school like John Adams Academy doesn't pop up overnight by itself. To take the work of a lot of people, a lot of dedicated individuals, our faculty and staff, our maintenance crews, custodians, and our board. And I'd like to take a moment at this time to recognize our board and say thank you to all of our board members here. If you're a board member, if you can please stand and just be recognized. Thank you for everything you do in the service of John Adams Academy. Thank you. And here to speak on behalf of the Academy and the board is our founder, Dr. Dean Foreman, to share some remarks.
We're almost done, but hasn't it been beautiful? The first core value of this academy was no coincidence. It is appreciation of our national heritage. I hope all of our scholars today now know why this core value was number one. It is the sentinel that guards all the other virtues that we espouse. And so as I looked over today, I couldn't help but just feel so blessed and proud. Thank you to our veterans. Thank you to our choirs. The music was meaningful and well done. Thank you to those that gave service dogs and those that said words of appreciation. Gratitude is certainly perhaps the highest of all virtues. As I reflect on one of our teachers, Rosemarie Groth, I thank her for choosing the academy. She was well into her career. She could have gone a lot of places. And this is her father that we honor today. And we thank you for being a patriot. What does it take to be a patriot? A lot of people have always asked that. And as I was thinking about this, I asked one of our veterans today before coming here. I said, so what do you think about Veterans Day and we honoring your service? And he said, well, we look at ourselves not so much as heroes a lot of times, but survivors. And in that role, I want to just mention a quick story because of the date that will be Sunday, which will mark 100 years of the end of World War I, which was the war to end all wars. The ideal was that a League of Nations would be set up to guard this ideal. Unfortunately, within 20 years, a new storm was brewing that would ultimately cost the lives of hundreds of millions. As Churchill noted in his volume, The Gathering Storm, quote, the theme was how the English-speaking peoples, through their unwisdom, carelessness, and good nature, allowed the wicked to rearm. On October 2nd, my grandfather, October 2nd, 1917, Earl Leslie Matthews entered the military service, leaving Pioche, Nevada with his lifelong friend Willard Osborne Lee for Fort Lewis, Washington. He was assigned to the famous 91st Division as a private in Company A, 362nd Infantry. After 10 months of training, they were shipped to Liverpool, England. After 10 days, they replaced retreating English soldiers. Earl spent many days fighting in the bitter cold, advancing one damp trench after another, constantly carrying injured buddies to ambulances to be sent back for treatment. Unable to take time to change clothes or unwind the tight spiral leggings they wore, the soldiers suffered miserably. It was here that Earl was gassed and feared dead. You see, when they were told to put on their gas masks, Earl's friend Willard Lee did not have one. Earl insisted Willard take his while he attempted to use his handkerchief as a mask. The Army soon notified Earl's parents that their son was missing in action, but their strong faith assured them he would be found alive and return home to them. When Earl was rescued and carried to safety, he could not speak. The nerve gas had damaged his vocal cords, and it was 30 days before he sufficiently recovered to write home and tell his parents he was okay. Earl would suffer the rest of his life with terrible sores and varicose veins received from the constant wearing of the wet spiral leggings. He passed away in 1941, right near D-Day, or the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, and at the age of 46 with a blood clot and stroke likely induced by the chronic conditions induced by the war. This left 6 orphan children. One of them was my mother. You see, Earl's wife had predeceased him with pneumonia in 1933. And so, to honor him and others of the World War I generation, and all of you that are veterans here, and all of you that are here to honor veterans, the next generation, one of my favorite poems to commemorate this. In Flanders fields the poppies grow or blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow. There's one other poem that I would like to share for those that have gone before us and given the ultimate sacrifice. As is said, perhaps there is no greater sacrifice than a man should lay down his life for his friends. This is from the memorial found on Corregidor Island, which I visited years ago. Sleep, my sons, your duty. Done. For freedom's light has come. Sleep in the silent depths of the sea or in your bed of hallowed sod until you hear it dawn, the low, clear reveille of God. May God bless America and all you patriots, heroes, and survivors. We thank you for your service and being with us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Foreman. And with that, I just want to give the closing remarks and thank our veterans for being here with us today. Hopefully through this assembly and through all of the actions and speeches from our scholars and our staff, you've felt the love and true admiration and appreciation for your service and for all of your actions in protecting this nation. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. With that, I would like to invite everyone to rise for the retiring of the colors, again by the United States Marine Corps.
Forward! March! Left! 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 Right! 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 Left! 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 Right! 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 Left! Left! Carry! Colors! Ready! Face! All back! March! Left! Right! Left! 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 Right! Left! 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 Right! Left! Left, left, detail, halt. Dismissed.
Again, thank you very much for being with us today to celebrate Veterans Day and to honor our veterans. Scholars, if you can please stay where you're at until we can let our special guests be removed and then wait for your teachers to dismiss you. Thank you.